Molly Olson, private citizen. I did not sign up to speak. My lack of comments does not imply agreement on anything being done in this task force. I just want to make that clear. And because of the dialogue that occurred earlier with Jimmy demanding that the question that I asked two people here to ask, Venor, was made a public issue, I feel compelled to continue that conversation. First of all, I'd like an apology, Jimmy. I think that was completely uncalled for. There was no reason to do that. Secondly, where do we go from here? I had a question. When and how is that question going to get addressed? If you look on case number 1, on her page 6, on line 6, it shows for existing, and you can pick any number on here you want. I just happened to pick that one because it was the first one here in the first case she gave us, $598 based on existing, which we've learned is the USDA data newly updated. So I want to know from Venor, not just that number, but on every single number here, but let's start with the 598 number. What does that break down to? 598 becomes the obligation. That's not the total obligation. That's the obligation for the obligated parent, right, as I read this? What is included in there? How much of that 598 is for transportation? How much of that is for housing? How much of that is for activities? How much of that? We need the breakdown to understand how these are getting so high. Like Peggy said, how do you spend $1,000 every month on your child for these very, very extremely basic things? You don't. So that clearly demonstrates that this is way too high. We've known it's been way too high for way long. It's been said, the last comment mentioned that again. It's been said repeatedly over time in many different meetings and many different task forces, and yet all of these formulas so far are going to continue to increase child support as I see it for the most part. There's so much discussion and analysis that has to occur here, and I think this committee is way far behind the 8 ball if you really need to understand what is the impact going to be in August of 2018 on these people. The intention was that there was going to be some relief, that these new parenting time adjustments were going to provide relief for people that have been known to be paying, having to pay, required to pay, ordered to pay way too high. That has put them in the basements of the grandmother's house because they have no place to live. And yet now I see repeatedly all over here that it's just going to increase for these people. I mean, there's so many questions that the 5 minutes doesn't even allow time to ask all the questions related to this. And then there's votes that are trying to be asked, although I thank the committee for kind of restructuring the vote question to make it a little bit more reasonable on what you were even talking about. But there's still clearly a lot of questions from a lot of people on this committee on what these line items on here even mean and what the actual ramifications will be, especially in August of 2018. And there's confusion. Wasn't that interesting? There's even confusion on what the charge of this committee is to understand the implications on the new parenting time adjustments. If you're supposed to look at it before or after, you've got the information. You have the information already. You can run the various cases, create formulas. I've got 1 minute left. So with that, I'm just going to say, okay, where do we go from here? First of all, Jimmy, where do I get the information to my question?
Excuse me.
Jimmy, it's my understanding that the 5 minutes is for the citizen to speak and not to engage in back and forth dialogue right now.
No.
So tell me what you, as a group, want to do with this time.
I think I want to make a special exception. In this instance, Molly's the last person to speak, I believe. Or do we have anyone else after her?